Hi, it's Jasmin. You know, that girl who did you-know-what way before the internet ever existed. Join me and my special guest every week as we talk about anything and everything because nothing is too taboo. So punch your ticket and get on board the Krazy Train with me, Jasmin St. All aboard!
Welcome to a brand new episode of Krazy Train Podcast. This next guest is someone I've been extremely excited to meet online. And I hope I get to meet her in person because she's drop dead gorgeous. She sort of reminds me of another version of Elvira. I'm sure you guys, if you follow that world, you've seen her on the hunt for the new Elvira years ago. But from many of your favorite horror films and on Shudder, The Last Drive-In. Some of you know her as Darcy the Mail Girl. The rest of you might know her as Diane Prince. So let's welcome to the show, Miss Diana Prince. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to make this happen finally because I've been sort of looking at your social media account, but I remember when you had something to do with the hunt for the new Elvira a while back.
Oh God, yeah, that was a long time ago.
I know, but Elvira is like one of my favorite characters of all time. And I went to Groundlings because of her, because I love Elvira. Did you ever get a chance to meet her?
Oh, I've met her a lot of times. She's been on my show. We work together a lot. Her manager's my manager. Yeah, like I've loved her forever. And that show didn't really go anywhere, but I'm glad because I was kind of sad being part of it because I didn't want there to be a new Elvira. But it's like, if somebody's going to be, I might as well try. But I'm glad we didn't do that. We still have Elvira. She's like 72 now and still doing it. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think there could ever be another Elvira. It's just some icons you really can't recreate. You know, what are your thoughts on Vampyra?
Vampyra, the comic book? Or Vampyra?
Vampyra, sorry, my bad.
Well, I love both.
Yes.
I was just making sure. Vampyra is amazing. She was like the original. She actually didn't get along with Elvira very well because she thought Elvira was kind of copying her, which she was, to be fair. But I love them both. I think there's room for both. I go visit Vampyra's grave at Hollywood Forever. So I leave her like a little umbrella, like a black umbrella to shade her because she's out in the sun. She would hate that.
I feel as though it's so overcrowded there at Hollywood Forever. A friend of mine got buried there. She was from Pennsylvania originally, but a few years ago she was buried there. And I just remember it was just so crowded by more and more people that just want a lot of some type to be there or just have their ashes somewhere at the gravesite. So I know that you started with adult films back in the day, in the 2000s. Do you ever follow the business now?
I mean, a little bit. I'm still a fan, but it's changed so much. It's kind of more about individuals than like the business as a whole, you know, like stuff that I used to work for doesn't even exist anymore, which is crazy. It's like all OnlyFans mostly, you know. It really changed the biz when that blew up, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely see a difference in it. I think it was fun being in it during the heyday with all the AVN shows, the cool parties.
Yeah, like your era, fuck, man. I would kill to be like that. I not grew up, but like I remember you from back in the day and I was a big fan of yours. So like it's awesome to get to talk to you and you are an icon to me. Sincerely.
Oh my God, thank you. I'm blushing.
But it's true. And I don't think that we get that as much anymore because it's kind of like everybody's in porn now, you know what I mean, to a certain extent. So you don't get the icons that last forever the way you kind of used to now, and you would be one of them. So
I thought of you earlier because I just got a package in of these candles because of all the things with horror films. It's from this company, and one is called Vacancy. So it's supposed to smell like the hotel in Psycho. Then one is called Red Rum. It's supposed to smell like typewriter paper, wood. I'm like, does this thing smell like blood also? Because I just don't want that.
I have gotten blood smelling candles and stuff. Do you know what company this is?
Last Looks Grooming.
Nice. Interesting. The typewriter paper is intriguing.
Yeah.
Good idea.
What got you hooked on horror films?
Oh gosh, I've just loved them forever. Even when I was doing porn, I had my site Kinky Horror, just so I had an outlet to like write nonsense about horror because it's just I've loved it forever. My dad loved it, and I kind of grew up like curious, but he wouldn't let me watch. Like I'd sneak in when he was watching Friday the 13th. I'm like, what's all that then? He had Stephen King books everywhere and stuff like that. So I've loved it from as long as I can remember.
That's so cool because I screamed. This is before your time. I watched this TV show called Fantasy Island and I was freaking out one night, like screaming. So I guess I got drawn into it by the seduction of the unknown. But truthfully, I'm like afraid of ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts and the paranormal?
Actually, I'm not sure. I think I do, but I'm not scared. You know what I mean? Like if they exist, I'm not surprised, but like I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, like I'm not I feel like there's so many ghost hunting shows that have produced at best like inconclusive evidence, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So it's like I think they exist, but I'm not scared of them.
Yeah, we don't have to know either. I'm good with not knowing.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's like if they're there, awesome, you know. Do your
well, I'll
thing,
just
too.
send them to you. How about that?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll hang with them.
It's just the unknown of it. And I think I've seen The Exorcist like way too many times.
I don't get the love for that one. Like there's just certain ones that like I didn't see until after they were super hyped. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch The Exorcist. I'm like, this is actually kind of boring. Like I prefer Exorcist 3, actually, if you haven't seen that.
Really?
Yeah, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. I
Check
like
it
the
out.
originals.
It's cool. I respect that. But if you like Exorcist, check out Exorcist 3 and just see. Give it a look.
How did you get drawn into adult films? Like what? You're not from LA, right? You're from South Carolina
I
originally?
am. Yes,
Yeah.
Charleston. I
Okay.
was also a fan of porn. I loved horror and porn, and I like wanted to be involved in both. And the only hesitation I had with porn is like, what will my family think? But also, my family like wasn't really in the picture, so I'm like, yeah, they're not paying my bills. So I actually got the motivation. I started like baby like softcore, like you know Skinamax type stuff, and then the Tyra Banks show. When I first moved to LA, I was doing like every reality show that wanted to do anything that paid like $100 or something. Like okay, so Tyra Banks had me like they wanted to pretend like they set up this thing, pretend that you want to make the transition from softcore to hardcore. And like at the end, I was supposed to learn this valuable lesson of like, no, porn's terrible, and I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, actually, I really want to do this, and I totally like ruined their narrative. And Tyra got so upset and whatever. I'm like, you want me to lie? They did, but I didn't lie. I was like, actually, I'm pretty down with this. These people are really nice, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the porn industry. So I'm gonna do porn now. They're like, she totally shamed me. She was like, you should be ashamed. This is terrible. God hates this. Blah blah blah. I'm like, oh well. You're not paying my bills either, Tyra.
Yeah, but also I find that a lot of people that shame girls in that business are the ones that secretly want to do it somehow.
I wonder. It'd be funny. I would buy Tyra Banks porn.
There's got to be one out there somewhere.
There's definitely got to be a parody, like America's Next Top Model porn parody or something.
I think you just got that's it. That's the one right there. We could do like an America's Next Model or Top Model starring not Tyra Banks, but like some girl with a spin-off of the name like Tyria
There got to
Banks
be
or something.
somebody. There was back when I was working in like 2006 era. Like there was somebody that had a name like Tyra Banks. So we should look up whoever that was.
And I don't know what the correlation would be between horror films and porn. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I maybe you get that adrenaline rush. Also, a lot of people that love it from the old days, like 80s style. It was sexy before you could get your hands on porn. Like a big part of why I started watching is like, oh, there might be a stray boob here and there. So like, I'll sit through the scary parts to see the boobage. So you know, I just the excitement of both kind of they fit together. Same with wrestling. I'm finding out that the wrestling, horror, and adult world just works together really well.
You see, it's interesting with you because you started with porn, then did the horror stuff. There's some girls, like the very first time I got introduced to Scream Queens. Yeah,
This TV show?
I was like 18 years old. No, like Scream Queens Illustrated. It was a
Oh,
magazine.
okay. No, I remember that too.
Yeah, like I
Two
posed for
famous
that.
Oh, did you? Amazing.
Yeah, I was like
Still
18 or
around
19.
now.
I didn't look the same. But I really wanted to do it because I went by and I met like Brink Stevens, Debbie
Yeah.
Rochon, all those like vintage girls from that era. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh no, I love that. I always wanted to be in Screen Queens that didn't exist by the time I got out here. But like, yeah, and they're still around. Like through my show, I get to meet all of them. I just gave Brink Stevens like a lifetime achievement award and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god! And they don't get like I'm like so sincere in how like it's like, oh my god, you're such an icon. She's like, okay, cool, thanks. I'm like, no, you have no idea, you're such an icon. But it's cool to get to tell them that, because I think that pre-internet they might have gotten lost, with not as many people remembering their work and stuff. But now we can keep that alive and remind new people. It's like, hey, this chick's amazing. Go check out her shit.
I love Scream Queen. It's like my favorite Scream Queen. I would say would be I was Brink Stevens, but I also like this girl named Jasea. She might have been like a one-hit wonder or like a quick flash in the pan, but she was exotic. And I met her at Golden Apple Comics.
Oh wow, I love Golden Apple.
So, if you're looking for the safest and coolest way to bet online and the most variety, of course, of games and like almost anything you could bet on, stop at betonline.ag because I guarantee you there is something for everyone. What was your introduction to a horror film? Like, what was the very first one you did?
It was this really terrible movie called Cold Fear. When I still lived in Seattle, they needed somebody. There's like an ad in like Craigslist or whatever the fuck it was back then. Like $300, they needed boobs in it. Like they had to do reshoots because whoever was going to distribute is like, it needs some nudity or it's not going to pick up. So they literally just brought me in to be naked for a minute. And that was my first anything I did. I'm like, of course I'll do that. So I had a terrible, terrible on-screen death that I got to make out with some dude while I was topless. He was cute. So I'm like, okay, not a bad day at work.
Well, was he cute?
He was cute.
Okay. Yeah. That's all that matters.
I know. My boyfriend was kind of watching it. I'm like, I'm acting. Don't worry about it.
Oh, don't worry about it. It was such a long time ago. And it's like, that
no, I mean, my boyfriend at the time was watching while I was filming. And he's like, you seem a little too excited about this. I'm like, I'm acting.
Well, wait a second. How did that, like, what happened when you went home later that night?
I just said I was really into the part. And, what do you want me to not, like, do a good job? Whatever.
Well, some people don't get it. Like,
not long after that.
Yeah, that's the next question. How long was that relationship? Because most men don't understand these things, and it's got to be hard, like dating in that business. Did you date at all while you were involved in horror films? Like, did you have a long-term relationship of any type?
In horror films? I mean, I'm still involved in horror now. I think it'd be more interesting. Like, I definitely, and the harder thing was like, while I was full on doing porn, I was in like a long-term relationship at that time. He was super understanding and like kind of into it, and like we had a little bit of a swinger relationship. He was always super respectful. He'd come help me on set and just be like really supportive, which is really, really rare. So that was cool and helped me when I was doing adult work.
So when did you officially get out of adult? Like, what was that turning point?
Or 2015 would be probably like around the last time I did it, and just kind of it just wasn't fun anymore. Like it was starting to cause problems in personal life for many reasons. Like with my kid, they were trying to use that against me and like, oh, you're a terrible mom because like you're doing porn, etc. Meanwhile, my ex, his dad, was like abusive, and that's on record, but he's okay. But because you're making a living taking care of your kid in a sexual way, then so like it was too much stress, and I was just like, I'm at least taking a break. And then like I realized like it kind of was happy on the break because I could do other things. And then I found The Last Drive-In, and they're like, well, you can't do porn and this. I'm like, all right, well, let's see where this goes then.
Well, tell us about The Last Drive-In.
The Last Drive-In, it's on Shudder / AMC, and it's actually Joe Bob Briggs. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
I know the name.
He was an icon to me, like Elvira. I grew up like watching his show. He did Monster Vision back in like late 90s to early 2000s on TNT, and he kind of just disappeared like one day. Like literally in 2000, you turn on the TV, he's not there anymore. And I didn't know where he was. And when I was doing my site, like every year I post on him on his birthday, like, don't forget Joe Bob Briggs. And then I was always trying to find him again. Like, where are you? We need you back. And finally I did. And it took like 2 years of convincing after I met him to get him to try something. He was so convinced like the world didn't need him anymore because Google exists and stuff. Because part of his thing is telling knowledge about the movies and stuff. So like, people would just look that up now. Like, that's not the same. Like, you need to come back. Long story short, we got Shudder to give us a goodbye special for him because we never got that. So we were having a 24-hour marathon. That was just his goodbye. And we thought he'd never, like, this is it. But it's cool. We got to let him know he was loved. He meant a lot to, like, so many people growing up. And then so many people tuned in to watch his, like, farewell special. Like, broke all the AMC, like, affiliate. I don't know. They do, like, Sundance and stuff. Like, all their servers. Because everybody's trying to watch the show. And they're like, would you guys like to keep doing this? So... yeah, so it was just started as like a love letter to my hero. We all worked for free just trying to like put this together for him. And now like 6 years later, we're still doing it. And it's amazing. He gets to see how loved he is. He doesn't realize how many people he affected, or he does now, but he didn't then. So it's amazing to get to show him that. And then keep it going because we're still introducing, like, he introduced me to so many horror movies, and now I get to help him do that to new people.
I think I've got a lot of like movie catching up to do sooner than later. I got stuck on like real crime documentaries for the past 3 years, or actually during the pandemic, I got really jammed into that stuff and overseas series. So I want to get back to horror films because I just miss so many wonderful things. And I love psychological thrillers as well. I think it's wonderful you're doing that.
We cover like all genres to like give people idea of what exists. So if you like psychological, we got that. I'm more of a slasher gore kind of person. Not everybody's cup of tea, but that's my style.
It's weird because I get squeamish around blood, but I work around a lot of blood with deathmatch wrestling and injuries. Yeah. So I've probably seen the real life version of what they show on the screen. Like when that piece of glass is coming out of the guy's leg and they're bleeding all over the place. Yeah. Okay. I totally get it.
Do you get squeamish then in like the real life situation?
Yeah, but even on screen, I just get squeamish around blood and needles, but yet I'll go get IV infusions once a week or once every 2 weeks, get vitamins. I don't know how it works that way.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's like, oh, it's helping. I'll ignore.
Yeah, the fountain of youth. Like I want to think it's a fountain of youth somehow. Speaking of wrestling, like I brought that up. What's your fascination with wrestling? And I think my friend sat next to you at an AEW wrestling show and he was afraid to say anything, but he's like a deathmatch legend who has a horror podcast as well.
Shut up.
Yeah. Who? But he was scared of you.
Who was it?
This guy named Madman Pondo. And he's like, everyone knows him with deathmatch wrestling, but he's like, yeah, I think I sat next to her to AEW. I said, why didn't you say anything? Well, she'd probably think I'm a creep. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
No, I want to check out his podcast. I didn't know. That's amazing. Yeah, I love wrestling and I like grew up watching it. Attitude Era, like I love all that shit. But I was actually in Chyna's first porn. Oh. Which is, and I loved her. Like when I walked in and saw that, so I was working with that day. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Because like I just like totally fangirled out. I told her I dressed as her for Halloween, which she loved, and I was able to help her. She was so nervous on her first day, but we got to be kind of close and talk about stuff. And she just had so many terrible stories about WWE, so it started kind of like falling out of love because then I would hear more about it and I'd look and I'm like, I just feel like I can't support them like I used to. Like the veil has been lifted or whatever, and I see them kind of not as happy as I used to. Then comes AEW, and I'm like, yes, an alternative. Like I can just purely love them again because they're trying to bring back the fun of wrestling. So like I go to as many AEW matches as I can. I have a side wrestling pod that's just about AEW. I just love supporting this alternative, and just wrestling in general is amazing. Like I've gone to Japan to watch wrestling. I've gone to Vietnam to watch wrestling. Like I am a big just give it to me, all of it.
Well, where did
Even
you go
now,
in
I'm starting to
Japan?
watch. I went to, well, Tokyo. Like, I've gone to just a few, and APW type stuff. So, have you ever gone to Japan for wrestling?
Well, yeah, I was wrestling in Japan for All Japan, not for Big Japan Wrestling, because I've always been used as a
I
manager
didn't
because
know
of my
that. That's
size.
amazing. I
So
didn't know you
yeah,
did Japan. That's so cool.
it was
I love
cool.
it. Is the crowd is so different. It's such a different experience, and I love the seating. It's so much nicer.
Well, there was a 5-year-old in the audience at the show.
A
And these are
5-year-old.
like hardcore death matches with blood,
Aw,
glass. I usually use a Singapore cane and there's barbed wire. Then there's this little cute, dainty 5-year-old girl out there. I'm like, whoa, okay. But it's great
I
that you
agree with
supported it since the
that.
attitude. What drew you into wrestling? Like, who was your favorite wrestler?
I don't know what drew me in. It just kind of was everywhere, and it was cool. Like, why would I not love wrestling? Who is my favorite? I mean, I love. It's hard to be not clouded by stuff now,
Yeah.
but gotta love Shawn Michaels is amazing, and I don't know, like Chyna was amazing, and it's just it's and looking back, like Roddy Piper, like
Hmm.
icon forever. But it's hard. Like part of his is definitely because it's of his horror stuff, and he was so
Oh,
cool
yeah.
that way. Yeah, so it's like it's hard to say. I love Mr. Perfect.
He was really nice, but China was a lovely person. I met her when she was dating Triple H, and
Oh,
she was just a lovely person to speak with. I didn't even know you were in a movie with her. Which film was this? You weren't in One Night in China. You were in the actual movie from Vivid. Is that the one you did?
I was in Backdoor to China or whatever, like her very first porn that she did.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, she was super nervous, and there's this one publicity still that I love because we're like kind of holding hands because like she was nervous, and I was like, I'm gonna get you through this, and like we literally just like encouraged her, like you're doing great, like 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 the Kardashians, thinking you're doing great, sweetie, and shit, because she really like was all about it. She was just really scared, but she embraced it. Like I love that about her, and but she had a lot of sadness inside for sure, and I feel like a lot of it came from WWE. So who
Yeah,
knows?
the backstory on that's really it's very dark. And even during her last moments, I like personally, I feel as though a lot of that was linked back to her career being cut short. And I'm not,
Agree.
I used to be a huge Attitude Era fan and a fan like in the 80s of all the WWE stuff, but I'm just so happy that there are alternatives like Impact, TNA,
Yeah.
AEW. And
Yes.
then once again, you have the indie scene making this huge comeback. Um, because now they're adding more blood and gore into the mainstream wrestling, which is
I
something I'm sure
know.
you like,
Yeah.
uh,
I love
and
all
more
of it.
violence.
I know. I love it, and I love that. Hopefully it helps the big
Yes.
guys. You know, act right. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
It's a great, I love the business. It's like one of the best things I've ever had in my life happen, aside from my black cat. Do you have any animals?
I have a lot of animals. I like 4 dogs and 3 kitties, and yeah, I love animals. You have a black cat, you said?
Yeah,
Are you
mine's all black. No, I'm in love with my cat. Like, I have to tell you, there are days when he just sits on my lap and I will not, like, I missed I missed a doctor's appointment for my thyroid yesterday because he was sitting on my lap. I
I get it.
couldn't leave.
I
Huh?
get that. It should be a legit excuse. It's like, I'm sorry. My cat is comfortable. I cannot get up right now. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I made up some other
Of
excuse why I
course.
couldn't leave. I'm like, well, something just busted, like a pipe bust in my apartment, and I can't leave anyone. Yeah.
I know that too well, but I think it should be a socially acceptable excuse. It's like, I have a cat in my lap. It's like, okay, we'll get you another time.
Now I'm like an old cat lady. I'm just like terrible.
Cats are
So do you
amazing.
see did you ever direct a film? Do you see yourself directing one?
I've started producing, which I think is probably more and more like big picture and like let's get this together and how can we do this versus the meticulous direction. I wouldn't say I'm out of it, but I'd say that's where my interest lies. So I just did slasher size. We just had the premiere of that. It's like a throwback to Linnea Quigley's horror workout. Just little things like that. I produced The Last Drive-In, and there's, lots of stuff coming out because I want to make the movies that I wish other people made. Like, I don't love acting in them as much because there's a lot of things I'm like, I just sit there like, what are you thinking? Like, this is not good. Why are you doing it like this? Like, and I want to correct it so bad. So I want to make the movies that I want to see.
My God, the amount of times I like bit my tongue on a set of a B movie or like one of those lower budget horror films. I just bite my tongue because I love the artistic aspect of it. I like being in front of the camera instead of being behind it. And if anything goes wrong, I just blame. I have someone to blame. No, if something goes wrong, I always blame myself. I could totally see you directing something, but what would be your dream cast if you could use like 5 characters, past or present, or actors? Who would you choose for like your ultimate slasher film?
Oh, dear Lord. There's too many to say that. Past or present? Wow. Well, let's have Vincent Price just because.
Yeah.
Vincent Price, Linnea Quigley. Who else would be amazing? I love David Manners. I think he's super underrated, so he could be the good guy there. Well, let's just have the whole group. Let's have Vampyra can come in because she only did Plan 9. She needs to do some more. And is that 5? Let's have Joe Bob because he's been in Scorsese movies and shit. Like, he's a real actor, so I feel like this cast make a pretty good movie.
I kind of like that. Yeah, sure, why not?
Classic. It's let's bring the
I
classic
forgot about Linnea.
Oh,
That's so weird you brought her up. Did you ever like Rhonda Shear?
Yeah, I'm actually working with Rhonda and stuff. We had a comic book together, and I don't know if I can say what we're working on yet, but she's amazing. I love her. Do you know her too?
I met her once. My old manager from the 90s, he was working with her when she had her Playboy layout. So more than likely he was setting up appearances for her and so forth. But I met her briefly. She was really cool. And I'm pretty sure I met Linnea because when you go to these conventions, like specifically like the horror conventions, it's a whole other world. Like I went in there as a dealer. I used to deal with vintage model kits. Then I saw the Scream Queens table. I'm like, wow, that looks so cool. Like you had beautiful girls like yourself there. Not back then, but just girls like this that were so beautiful. And we're doing this whole genre of something so cool,
Yeah, I used to go just as a fan, and now I go as a person, but I still like fangirl out the whole time. Like it's so weird, and it is such a different world. It's kind of like everybody that goes to these cons know each other very well because you see a lot of the same people at the cons everywhere.
This might sound weird, but I feel like you could trust the fans that you see coming back over and over to like get you some coffee. Like they're not going to put anything creepy in it because they know everyone, right?
It's true. I definitely will accept a coffee from a fan. I mean, especially if you're there like all weekend, like you do often see the same people over and over again. They kind of become your friends. I see there's people that travel to our live shows all over and they're like, oh, remember when we met you here or there? And it's like, you kind of know them. And I talk to people online so much that like, they aren't really strangers when I see them in person. It's like, oh, hey, saw your last post.
That's so weird. You have the patience for it. I don't have the patience to do this. My God. Hey, so are you looking to spice things up in the bedroom? If you want to have a threesome with you, me, and Adam and Eve, go ahead on adamandeve.com. And if you put in the code Krazy Train, that's crazy with a K, you can get up to 50% off of most items and 10 free goodies. That's right. Go to adamandeve.com and put in the code Krazy Train, crazy with a K, and you can get up to 50% off of certain items and most of all, those 10 free gifts. You can give it to your wife, your girlfriend, whoever. So American Horror Story, like I didn't really watch it except for one season, 1984. Did you watch that?
I did. I feel like it went on a little long and got a little convoluted, which is very typical of American Horror Story in general. Like I loved season 1 and I loved Coven, which is 3.
Yeah.
The other ones were kind of okay. Freak Show was cute, but they just go on too long, and they just throw like everything in there. Like I kind of not as big into them as I once was. But 1984 is cute. I thought it was going to be a cute idea. They added like so much and kept going. And I'm like, if you guys had stopped like halfway through the season, I would have been like all about it.
I like the camp, and I like the whole slasher film effect and the Richard Ramirez character, who looked just like him, by the way.
Like he did. He was great. But it's just like, did that need to be there? Like maybe that's its own story. Like, let's just have the camp. We don't need the Richard Ramirez stuff. Whatever.
That's a really good observation. I didn't think about that, because that could have been like a whole series in and of itself, like a whole season.
It's like it's like they were forcing it together when it didn't really belong. But he was great for sure, and they have good ideas. They just like shoehorn them together in ways I'm like, this is stupid.
Now, being that you were an adult at one point and you did the crossover, do you think it held you back from anything possibly?
Definitely, for sure. There are weird things that you wouldn't expect that people would care. But I remember there was like some like Pants Off Dance Off or something, wanted me to be a host, but then they found out about my adult and they're like, no. I'm like, it's called Pants Off Dance Off, but okay. Just weird things like that. And when I first started The Last Drive, and even now, people try to like get me fired because like she was a porn star, and like we're so against this, and like people write me threatening like, I'm gonna tell Joe Bob that you were a porn star. I'm like, you think he doesn't fucking know? So there are people that are always gonna like hold that against you, but I am what I am, and I don't regret anything that I've done or who I am, and don't try to hide it. So you don't like it, sorry.
See, I like hearing that, because I think so many girls get shamed by their past. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I had an issue at one point. I don't think it was me that had the issue. I think my husband at the time had the issue. Therefore, it like trickled down onto me. I'm like, wait a second, bro. Like, how did you pay for that steak dinner again? Whose wallet was it? Oh, but that's right. My bad.
Exactly. Yeah, I won't hear any shame about it. Like, maybe there's like, some of my scenes could have been better. Okay, I'll take responsibility for that. But like, just that I chose to do that as a profession in general, nah. Like, I have a 7th grade education, and I raised my kid, and I bought a house. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel exploited. It's something I liked anyway. Like, I love the industry. I love the idea of it, and why not? So if anybody doesn't want to work with me because of that, then I don't need to work with them.
It's their loss. Trust me.
Exactly.
And what was your experience like on Entourage?
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about that.
Okay. I had my own experience with it, by the way, but not that far. Did you like working there?
I did. They got me my SAG card because they were like, my very first time I was there, they brought me in to be like a Sharon Stone thing, and they shot like I was wearing a mini skirt, and I was supposed to try on shoes and subtly like flash. But they didn't know like which version HBO would go. So I had a piercing at the time. So like there was one where they're like on the piercing, and it ended up being like a whole bunch of nothing. But we had a lot of fun on set, and I got to know some of the cast members really well. So they kept having me come back until I got my SAT card. I'm like, cool, thanks. They would even like, I would just hang out and not be working. Be like, I think Marky Mark or whatever his actual name is. He has like almost the same birthday as me, so like they had like a birthday cake that we shared one time and stuff. So it was fun. It was a fun set to be on, but I was new to the biz then, very naive.
Yeah, it's like a fun. I like the show. It's very fun, and I like the showrunner. He's actually really cool. I met him a few times at like out and about parties. Do you mix and mingle a lot, or do you find yourself as more of an introvert?
I'm definitely more introverted, but trying to work on that, I'm very much like the horror nerd, like I grew up very shy. So like any of this has been really hard for me. Even my early porn stuff, like I loved sex, but like my way was just very quiet, which like I'd internalize all the feelings and think that came across on camera. But the director's like, nah, man, you gotta vocalize that stuff. So I've learned to be more extroverted. Even on the last drive-in when I first started, they kind of threw me on camera, and I'm like, and like didn't want to say a lot and was really scared. I'm like, I don't know. You're my hero. I don't know what you want me to say. And then I'd like run away. And now I've gotten just more confident. So that's kind of rubbing out. That's like making its way into real life as well, because it's kind of like, why be as shy as I was? Like, people aren't as scary as I made them out to be. Not everyone, anyway.
Yeah, not exactly. It's a very wild business indeed. And it's funny because when people give you those weird looks, like they might know something is up, it's like, where do you really know me from, bitch?
Oh yeah, it's so funny. There's some people that try to be subtle, like I remember at the airport recently, some guy was with his wife, like, I know you. I like really wanting to say, like, it was cute. Like, people don't want to say, but like, you get it. But also, I wonder how people even recognize me. And I was like, I have black hair all through that. I'm like, how do you know me? But okay, cool. Hi.
Was he with his family?
That guy was with his wife, yeah. So he was like really wanting to say something, but not. Just it was very cute.
You could always go up to him and say, "So, how's married life today?"
I in no way want to cause any drama for anyone. I was just like, hey, you probably watched Last Drive-In, right?
Yeah, watch The Last Drive-In. Well, how often do you tape that?
Well, this year's different because we used to have a season that was only like 9 weeks in a row, and then the rest of the year we didn't do it at all. And now we kind of negotiated to be on year round, but it's like every other week because that's what they wanted. So throughout the year now. We are actually at the old Walking Dead soundstage because it's AMC. Like all the sets are still there and everything. So it's like, oh, this is cool in Atlanta.
That's a lot of fun. I love that show. And then let's talk about your wrestling podcast. Tell us about that.
It's called the Awesome Pod, but spelled like dyslexic, like AEW some pod, which causes issues, but whatever. I think it's cute. It's literally, we do it twice a week. We recap Dynamite, we recap Collision, and if there's a pay-per-view, we recap that. I have 3 co-hosts. One is a dominatrix, Harley, who's a female that grew up loving wrestling as well. We have a comedian, Johnny Taylor, and then we have a newbie who is Brendan Patrizzo, who watched wrestling for the very first time with me. So it's fun to get like his perspective on, he's also like very gay. So like those like new and gay to see what he's into, because we get a lot of clothing updates. It's like, well, his boots were amazing. So, but it's just to like spread the love of wrestling in general, but specifically AEW, because a lot of people aren't even aware it's around, and I just really want them to do well, and anything I can do to help, I'm happy to, and it makes me happy. Like, that was the one thing that helped me come out of my shell too. Like, I originally had a podcast called Geek Talk that was just me trying to make myself speak. Kind of, I would challenge myself. I'd put 10 minutes on the timer and just like I'd say whatever came out. And people started following that because they would relate. Like, you're just back to the introvert thing. Like, I could not make words come out of my mouth. I was so shy and scared to speak. But if I wanted to do the Last Drive-In, I had to learn to speak. Awesome Pod kind of like made Geek Talk not as important, because I realized if there's something I want to talk about, I can talk. So I can talk on Awesome Pod for hours about wrestling. And that's helped me come out of my shell and be able to speak like this now.
I think you're great. And I think it's awesome, or AEW-some, that you do that podcast. My friend is the talent scout there. He works with the talent. He used to work in ECW with me. He'd probably be a great guest down the line. I'd love to hook you guys up. I think you'd have a lot to talk about. Plus, he's like hot for his age. So like guys my age, like anything past 30 is like way too old for me, even though it could be age appropriate. But he's got like the hottest dad bod ever. I'm sorry. I'm like a pervert like that.
No,
like,
be a pervert.
You see, I look at these older guys that I should be dating. It's like, put the stomach away. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, put your stomach away. Why do you have gray hair? This is just horrible. So maybe it's like a midlife crisis.
Dudes do it to us. So why can't we in return? Like, if you don't like the older, then get the younger. It's all good. Whatever you like.
What's your sign?
Gemini.
Oh, okay. So that's June. Okay.
Yes. What's yours?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, that's a lot.
It explains like everything, I think, to
For
this day.
sure.
So I want you to give us your social so people know where to find you. And obviously, so we can stay in touch with you and write to you and see all the awesome things that you're doing.
All right, thank you. Instagram is Diana Prince XO. Twitter X is kinky_horror. And that's all that really matters. You can find me from there.
Okay,
I
cool.
check both of them very regularly.
And your
I'm on
podcast?
Threads and Snap and all that as well. But podcast is the AEW-some pod, the awesome pod. I'll promote it on the socials too. They also have I check in on it, but I don't super run. They have a Twitter for the awesome pod too, so you can find it.
Do you want to be in the wrestling ring one day?
I don't know. I'm happy just watching. Like I can even tell you, I probably go to 2 shows at least a month. Like I just love being there and watching as an observer. I don't know that I have the skills to actually be in the ring. You know, I'm just being a cheerleader on the side.
You never know, because a lot of people go in the ring who shouldn't be there or have like no training, but they don't necessarily get hurt. There's an art to it. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me, because I know it's a very busy day and like I know that you have a lot of stuff going on. I just think you're awesome. I just wanted to tell you that. And I'm just grateful that you had that I had the chance to speak to you.
Likewise, you're amazing. Thank you for asking me.
Well, thank you. Do you have any messages for your fans?
No. Watch The Last Drive-In every other Friday on Shudder and AMC. Is that good?
Groovy. Well, thank you and sit tight.